So hi everybody and welcome back to Unreal Engine 5 tutorial series for absolute beginner. This is video 130 and in this video we are talking about CMD. CMD is here on the bottom, you can see it, it says here CMD, and then we can type in here some command. It says here enter console command. So the CMD is for entering console commands. But what are these console commands? And when you click here in the CMD command and press ESC, you can see we have here a little bit more information. It's open up this little window here, and you can type here now anything and then it will print it out here in this window. So, but let's concentrate us to the commands which we can type here in, where we can find them. Where if you type here in this text file where it says CMD help, for example, help, and press enter, and then you see it pops up a window and a documentation page of Unreal Engine 5 opens, and then you can see here many comments and a whole bunch of lists what you can type in this console comments here, and they have some information text here as well. But the problem with this one is if you try now to learn all these comments which you can type in, that's not the right way to do. Why so? First of all, let's talk a little bit more about this CMD, why we need this, or what is the use case of this one. So CMD is actually a way how you can enter, like it says, console commands, but what for what you need this console commands? Mostly you need them to, for example, to analyze your gameplay, you analyze your stats or show stats or turn off and on features of the engine, or you are just debugging anything like that. And when we watch now these comments, you will see exactly many of these comments what you see here are anyhow to do something with analyzing, to do with profiling, optimizing, turning off and on flags or attributes. And you can see here this anim, for example, node are probably for animation nodes to do something with them. For example, you can toggle them on and off. But the problem here is when you watch this list, as a beginner, how we can work with it. I mean, how we learn this kind of stuff here, right? All these comments and how we understand this. The problem is we can't understand it directly, which means, of course, you can read here this comments here and then read how to use it, but that makes no sense. And why it makes not sense in this way? Because normally what you do is, when you go to profiling your game, which means you're trying to optimizing, or you try to activate engine features on gameplay to show and analyze your code, then there is a guide most time, and this guide will then point out all these console commands which you really need. So in this case, for example, you would go here here is an Unreal Engine, for example, performance and profiling overview. And when you go through this guide, you will see they will say for which performance or profiling topic you need which comments. So for example, they show here this FPS sync, and then they show how to activate flex. And so, for example, we have here different kind of profilings, right? So when we go here again, for example, you have here comments for profiling animation, right? Then anywhere we have something display here, something like debug, navigation, display, and all these different kind of topics, right? And it makes then only sense if you are optimizing for this specific topic and then learn the comments there, how to use them. Because like I said, learning here the comments just by typing it and then seeing, you can do it, but makes not most time sense, because you most time want a guide or a documentation where it explains what you are trying to optimize, what you want to show, and so on. So with that said, let's go on and continue a little bit. The problem with this CMD, you can see it, it is text-based terminal normally. What I mean with that is it is just a text line normally, what you can type in text. So it is not so comfortable like using a window, what we have here, for example. We have here a window, we open up this one, and then we go to click this and open this one up. This one is more for a Windows user, and this kind of text-based terminal is more for, let's say a Linux user, but not the new ones, the old style Linux user, which are not using graphical interfaces, and or old style text terminal user in general. All who likes terminals means like text things like this one, they like this kind of style. Most people will probably not like it that much, and the reason for that is very simple. You can see it. You need to know these comments, and then you need a little bit memorize these comments, and after you memorize these comments, you will love this terminal. And the reason for that is at start you don't love it because you need to memorize all, and most time this text is case sensitive, which means you have even to spell them correctly. But here in Unreal Engine it's a little bit different. Here is a search pop-up, which means all the comments which you are typing in are still case sensitive, but it shows what it can find and not, and that's helpful, right? And sometimes you can see which comments you need. But in other terminals, for example, I don't know, go to a Linux terminal, for example, the old style, there you have literally know all comments. You have memorized all comments, and then you can use just the Linux terminal without a graphical interface, and if you don't know the comments, you can't use it. But let's concentrate on these comments here. What we have to know before you go here in, there is another place where you can activate some of these comments, not all of these comments, console comments. For example, here, when I go here in this viewport, here on the left side and click, and we have here some comments available. For example, this show FPS for when I click here, and you can see it shows this FPS, and this comment I find here in this console comment as well when I write stat FPS, and that's interesting. That's it. This comment is not even showing here, but it is actually, it is here instead, and then when you make here instead an exclamation mark and write enter, we see nothing. But when we press ESC, then it opens up this window again, and then you can see normally that there are informations, but in this case it's even not. So that's even worse. But keep in mind the stat is a special word, which means let's go here on the top left top here again and go to stat, and stat means it will show you many things here. For example, you have here the engine, and then here this one is activated. We can see it here with this sign here that this one is activated, and here you can see many other things. And we are not going to the other places now. We are concentrating a little bit about the FPS now in this tutorial for demonstration purposes. And yeah, you see this way is one place where you can activate, for example, FPS. This one is here even in two places, here and here, because FPS is most time important in gameplay, because you want to check that your FPS is good. For example, in my case it's very bad and really bad. Even I have scaled it low, but that's because the graphic card is not very good. Whatever, it's not so important. It's still over 60 FPS, that's still okay for me. And when I play it, let's play the game, you can see the FPS and the milliseconds, it's over 100. So the question is now, if you concentrate a little bit on this FPS here, why is this so important? Because let's say you have FPS drops and something like that, then you can check where the drops are happening. For example, in this scene, it's very not very heavy scene, there should be no drops so much. And you can optimize this if you have, for example, really hard FPS drops in a very dense area. Then you can say, okay, perhaps analyze what this is causing. For perhaps static mesh causes them, or anything else causes them, and then you have to try to optimize the scene or the static mesh or anything else that your FPS goes up again, right? This is so more the goal in showing off the FPS here. Optimizing later, find very bad places, but there are actually better visualization tools to see what is bad, what is good, and so on. This one is just overall the engine FPS, how it just say how your scene run in this case here. So, but we have here a problem. Like I said, we can do it here on the graphical interface. Let's call this graphical because I can click here, I can go to stats, I can go here and then activate. But this one takes very much time, and we have one more disadvantage. When I start this one and test my game, I can't actually go to this place again, at least not directly. There are some workarounds. You can still make here, you can still make this graphical interface. You can build some special tools here or put a widget in and then add it here and still get access to it during gameplay. So it's still possible, but it's additional work. And most people say, okay, we can make this additional work for specialized optimization to test and so on, or we just use the CMD, and the CMD you can use at runtime as well, which means I start, and let's say I want to get rid of this FPS. I write here stat FPS, enter, and it's gone. And let's say here I want to test again my FPS at this side here. Perhaps let's see how much FPS I have here where it's nothing. Then I can write again stat FPS and I can see, okay, now I get it. And you see the advantage of using this one is during gameplay you can activate, deactivate, and this is just an example of FPS. Of course there are millions of comments, and if you know all these comments you can then activate, use them. And the console comment here is very fast. You see it as well compared to going here on top, finding the comment, going here and finding the other one or something like that. It takes a lot of time, and that's why in many cases you will hear that console users are very fast, but there is only one condition. They are only fast if they really know the commands, which means first they need to memorize all the commands. First they need learn how to use all these commands. But after they memorized and learned how to use these commands, they are absolute rocket, we can say it, compared to the graphical user interface users. And the reason for that is also, I don't know if this console command works the same like, let's say, a Linux console command, which means you can enter in one line many commands at the same time. Let's say open file 1, open file this, and copy file there, and do this one, and all in one line, and then press one time enter, and it will execute it at this line. So it's very fast when you have memorized all the commands, do know exactly what you are doing. If I would try this one, for example, with the graphical interface here, open this file, okay, I opened it. Now go open the next file, okay, I opened it. And now copy this file here to the next one, then I go here and then I make a duplicate. And then move the other one to this, and you see all the steps with the mouse. It's still not so slow, but compared to one line writing as a terminal user, it's definitely slow. But that's not the real topic about this video. Sorry for that, but just a general idea so you get the understanding that terminals are powerful when you know all things, but it's not powerful. It's not really, many don't like it, but in general many don't like it because it takes so much time to learn and memorize all these comments. But in our case, we don't need to memorize so much comments, because if you do that, what I said, for example, if you try to optimize, let's say, FPS special point, for example, for designers or something like that, then you can go here in this overview and they will guide you, for example, profiling for stereo rendering, so you can see the different topics. Profiling for this, GPU profiling, and cooking statistics, CPU profiling, and so on. And all these different kind of profilings will show you the right comments which you need to use. And then you learn that what you really need. And there is also anywhere profiling for artists and so on. But this kind of topics, these profiling topics, are a little bit advanced. Not that advanced, but a little bit, because you are optimizing your code, which means you are already finished with your assets, your gameplay, and now you try to make them work very fast. And here one tip for starters: normally you should optimize not at the end of your project. That many do this, but this is actually, I personally think this is a bad approach. Normally you should say you create this scene here. Let's say you are a designer, right? Then you create this scene here, and as a designer you have to check normally now, after you finished one scene, for optimization. For example, okay, this scene has good I don't know, good frame rates at this point, because you have made here very good static meshes, and bad frames here perhaps because you used here very bad static meshes, and then you have to change, for example, things like that. But for designers there is a special optimization tools with colors which make it very easy. And let me click one of this one and show you what I mean again. They will guide you through, for example, if you start to read them, optimization, GPU profiling, and then they show you this one, and they will show you later also this here. You can see this profiling tools here, and then sometimes how to activate the codes. Here we have again here this comment here. Let's copy this one. Let's see if I can see this one here. Nothing. It's okay. I use it for example now wrong. That's why there is nothing. And that I mean, if you just learn just the comments here, it will not help you really, because you need the context here of the profiling guide. So they say you make this, and then you can use this to show this. They explain all how this kind of things work, and here you can see again a console comment. So in short, you will learn all these console comments here when you start optimizing the profiling, activating flags on off for engine, activating engine features on off, testing, and so things like that. And you will definitely test your project. Many make the mistake to test this kind of stuff at the end, which can work, but most time it is better, let's say, to test it not at the end. More like I said, you make here a scene, just test the scene, profile the scene a little bit, not too deep at start perhaps. So make let's say you have to find just the most important parts, and then let's say the most important things which you should profile. For example, you should check the FPS after gameplay. It should work smoothly. Let's make an FX example here. You would write here stat FPS and then say yes, this works smoothly. And now I have not started. I have to start the game and see, yes, I have every place around 100. It drops sometimes when I move here a little bit below 100, but in general it's over 100, and that's okay. You would say then that would work. And here one more interesting thing here. You can even test how your game behaves if this game is running. For example, you make a 30 FPS game, because the old MOBA style games, you probably many of them, they run in the old days with 30 FPS. That was standard there. Let's call here stat. No, let's change the FPS. Let's make here a cap. Then you need to know exactly the comment. I know it here. It makes here T max FPS. And here one more thing. This info here, what you can see here, how to use these comments, you can watch them here too. If you write one comment and then you make an exclamation mark, enter, and here it's then described how to use it. So you don't need really to go all time up here to watch the comments if you know the comment. And then you can see it says 0 is uncapped, which means like mine's, it is no capped. And then you can set here some numbers to make the FPS lower, which means capped. And let's do this. Let's make it to T max FPS. Let's set them, oops, of course, T max FPS. Let's go here and write a number. Let's start with 20. Let's make a lag. Let's simulate a lag. For example, I write 10. And now I have set the max to 10. And when I start my game, and you see my game is now running with 10 FPS, still working. Interesting. With 10 FPS, it's still working. Nice. And then let's change this one. T point. And you see, I can make this in runtime. And that's why this CMD is very powerful. Max FPS here. Oops, not this one. Oh no. Why is it so slow? Okay, max here. And then let's write here 30. And now we test in 30. This is old MOBA games, for example. And you see, this 30 was not very smooth. And today I think you should not aim for 30. I mean, depends on the game what you are doing, right? Because if you make a game which is slow, you can aim for 30, but many people today expect at least 60, at least. They want even more in general, but if you not hit the 60 mark, they are most time unhappy, which means let's set this one to T. Let's test this one 60 now. I write here T max FPS 60. And when I start this one, you see why. Because this one, 60 is the, let's say, a breakpoint where your visuals seem very smooth. Right, this one looks very smooth compared to the 30, but today I said they expect at least 60 FPS. They want even more. And then there is this, yeah, let's call it, there is this debate. You don't need more than 60 FPS because your eyes can't realize that. And that's not really true, I think. I mean, that's my personal opinion, because your eyes can't really realize more than 60 FPS actively, but your consciousness realize that definitely, I think. What I mean with that is when I make this FPS now more than 60, let's make this T max FPS. Let's set this one, for example, to uncapped. Oops, again, wrong. Max FPS, and here I set here 0, for example, now uncapped. So my maximum FPS is now more than 60, and it looks similar to 60 FPS, this one. But this here will be still better than 60 FPS, even so many say you can't make the difference. And what is the reason for that? That this one is still better than 60 FPS? First of all, there are people who have a better perception than other. For example, my perception is not very good, but there are people who can react below 100 milliseconds. That's crazy, but yes, there are people who can really react, and this is just the reaction time, not the unconsciousness reaction time, which means his unconsciousness reacts even faster than this one. Which means he can see really absolute many things which I can't see in the same frame. And then these frames can make a big difference for fast-paced games. But the real thing why this matters is not this kind of stuff, not this extreme. The real thing would be more like, look what happens during gameplay. This FPS here is never be steady, and it drops sometimes, right? It will go down in some cases from hundreds and sometimes 90, sometimes even low. And then let's say you set it to 60 FPS max, it will be not staying at 60, it will drop below 60, and they will realize this very easy. Let's go here, let's set this to T max FPS. Here, for example, it will drop around, let's say 55 and 50. Let's set it to 50, and when you have set it to 60, and in some cases it will drop to 50, you can see what happened. They will realize this. It's not so smooth. You can see this one is not working smooth compared to 60. It's still working and going, but I think now you can really see it, that it is not this what you want to have. And that's the real reason why I think you should aim for higher than 60. So aim for 90. And if you are going even for, let's say, this virtual reality, this virtual reality, yes, consoles, and so this headphones or whatever, they need anyway 90 at least, and they need also more. So I think the new standard will be 90 soon, at least 90. Now it's at least 60, but that's also not true. 90 is probably at least the standard. I don't know which the standard is right now, but definitely not 30. Definitely 60 is too less. They expect already more. 90, yes, that is so the thing. But in virtual reality, you need really more than 90 because that's the minimum. So let's say over 90, right? You should aim for over 90. The problem is, in my case, for example, T max FPS, let's say here 0 for uncapped, which means this is the max which I can if my graphic card is not the best one, I can get around 100 with my graphic card with low scaling. Yes, but you have to consider this kind of stuff too. Which target platform you aim, how you put all these assets in. For example, if you really want to use only 8K textures, then that will go hardly down here, this FPS. Yeah, I think you get the idea with the CMD, right? And I wanted also demonstrate how to use it a little bit. So you see I typed in all-time FPS and then toggled it on, off. And later you will learn in future, if you go more in profiling, which means optimizing your code, more of this shortcuts. And don't forget, at start you can still go here on the right side to stat and watch here manually these things. Also the only difference is you have to go here on, you make this on and then start, and then you can watch these values and see what, and then you have to learn what this is, of course. And if you don't know now the comment here like I did not, because I watched not what I activated, then you have really stop this one again, go here, go to stat, and then check what you activated. Okay, FPS was this one not. And let's see what I activated here. Yeah, it was this game here. Okay. And but if you know the words here, for example, now I know it. Now I can stat game, for example, and then I see it. You see how fast this is. Really nice. Stat game, and then you can toggle it on, off, and check this. The only problem is you have really go through all this profiling optimization guides to understand what all this kind of comments are and how you deal with it. And yeah, for example, what is the GPU bottleneck, for example, in this case, and then you can check here this comment, and analyze all your scene and so on. All right, I think I talked much about something which is a little bit more advanced, but very important. Like I said, normally you should optimize your scene when you are going to create a real project. Not at the end, more during gameplay, right? What I mean with that, not during gameplay, during game development, during the development, right? So not after 3-5 months or 2 years work, and then trying to profiling it. At the end, you will profiling it again probably, but if you do it during gameplay, you can avoid many things which go wrong and have a bad impact later or can't be solved later. With that said, I think I stop here. I talked much. And if you have any questions or any complaints like all time, or any tips and tricks, just write them in the comments. See you in the next video. Good luck and have fun.